All
of.
right, last joke.
Oh dear.
Darn. Okay, then you can't have,
We are now ready to start again. We are recording one more
I had
time.
a few risque ones. I'll save them for later.
Yeah. All right, here. The Parks Committee meeting for May 26, 2021 is now in session. Let it be noted that all the alders, Alder Gerlach, Alder Brunette, Vice Chair Alderweire, and myself, Alder Scannell, are present. I'll take a motion to approve our agenda.
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Alder Burnett, seconded by Alderweire. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are agendarized. And am I good to go on?
We are good to go.
Okay, I'll take a motion to approve our minutes from our last meeting.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion by Alderweire, seconded by Alder Burnett. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, our minutes from last time are approved. Regular business number one, are we?
We are good to go.
We are good to go. Okay, number one, consideration with possible action on the approval of concept modifications to the previously approved mountain bike skills course to be located at Triangle Hill, and donated by the Bear Creek Preservation Foundation. Dan?
So at the October 23rd, 2019 Parks Committee, the approval was given to the Bear Creek Preservation Foundation to fundraise and install a bike skills course at Triangle Hill and the Bear Creek Greenway. So this concept that was provided at the last meeting was a loop track, a single loop track on the edge of the overflow parking area, which is a field area just to the southwest of the existing parking lot. And then a series of ramps, boulder obstacles, and dirt berms would have been installed at various locations along this loop trail. And the approval was given at the committee to move ahead with it. So since that time, the Bear Creek Preservation Foundation hired a company called Global Action Sports Solution. They're a professional bike skills course trail designer builder. So they came to the site, they visited it, and they recommended instead moving the proposed skills course east from the proposed location and build it into the hillside just south of the existing parking lot. So the reason that they proposed this change is to make it more of an interesting course than it would be had it been in the other position. So with the new course, they're able to make it more challenging to all age groups instead of just beginners. And the way that they're able to accomplish this is because the original concept was to be built on flat ground. And then in order to make it interesting, there would have to have been a substantial amount of fill brought in to the site to create the adequate berming to make it interesting. So there would have been a substantial cost to haul fill in, and which means they would have less money to build other ramps and obstacles and other activities. So in the new concept, what the designer is proposing is a beginner's, intermediate, and advanced course instead of a single loop. So if you look at the agenda packet, you'll see a copy of the proposed revised concept. So it'll start with a raised entry hub. So this is a stone seating wall area that'll be installed at the starting point. And from there, the three trails will split off. So the beginner's trail will be constructed on the flat turf area just south of the existing parking lot. So there really is very minimal slope and terrains, which makes it ideal for beginners. And then a series of entry-level wood ramps and boulders would be placed in several locations throughout the beginner's trail. And what's interesting in this concept, which was not included in the last concept, was they're proposing an asphalt pump track right off of the beginner's course, and that'll be on the far west end of the beginner's trail. So this is a kind of a, if you can imagine, a series of hills built out of asphalt that beginning riders and advanced riders can just ride it and go up and down the hills and learn how to go up and down terrain very easily. So it's an interesting feature that was not included in the last concept. And then the intermediate and advanced trails would be built into the hillside. Now, in order to build it into the hillside, they're probably going to have to remove the bulk of the trees along that hillside. The contractor would then use a small backhoe to level out a 3 to 4 foot wide trail into the slope of the hill. And then the grading would all be done through a series of cut and fill. So they wouldn't have to haul in any fill in order to create this trail system. They would, in essence, dig off of the high part of the trail, use that fill to level it off, and then, you know, add new fill down below. So the contractor would then be responsible to provide adequate stormwater management, adequate drainage, adequate erosion control, and slope stabilization. So this proposal was actually brought forward by the Bear Creek Preservation Foundation. So they're the ones that proposed this to the city. They did do a vegetation inspection and determined that there was very little, if any, desired vegetation along that hillside that needed to be protected. Most of the trees on that slope are unwanted invasive species. And there's really only a handful of trees that they'd like to try and keep and work around. So they are in favor of removing the majority of the trees in this concept. And then the contractor would then restore the new slope with prairie plantings, which has a pretty deep root system. So that will actually hold the slope together fairly well. So we reviewed this concept in detail with their designer. It's a concept that staff is supportive of. We feel that it'll add a lot of interest to the skills course and provide opportunities for different abilities and age groups versus a track that would have been built mainly for beginners. So what I'm requesting is that you approve the new concept. So this approval would allow the Bear Creek Preservation to complete the final fundraising efforts and then to finalize the planning for construction activities. This will also allow the city to draft a preliminary developers agreement with the Bear Creek Preservation Foundation, which would then allow them to take on the construction management responsibilities. And we've done that similar agreements with other donations and user groups in the past. So this developers agreement will be brought to, if this concept is approved tonight, this developers agreement would be brought to the next Parks Committee for your approval. And then ideally construction would begin on this course later on this summer. So I don't know if anyone has any questions for me.
Alder Gerlach?
I didn't understand that last thing you said. You said if we approve this tonight, then we'll approve something else at the next meeting. What's the
Yes.
next thing we have to approve?
So what we're approving tonight is just approval of the revised concept. So the concept has changed since the last time it was reviewed with you. So we're just asking for approval to put this new trail system in the location that's being proposed tonight. If the answer is yes to that, then we will put together a developers agreement. And what that is it's probably like a 12-page document, which goes over the terms and the requirements that the Bear Creek Preservation Foundation and the contractor that they hire to build this facility would have to go through in order for us to allow them to build the trail. So it's a standard agreement that we've used with other user groups. So we recently did it for the construction of the Ferris wheel with the Bay Beach Amusement Park Friends Group. We recently did it with the construction of the 4K edition at the Nature Center with the Fowls, which is the Friends of the Wildlife Sanctuary. We've also done it with the Optimus Club on the construction of the new concession stand at Optimus Park. So, you know, we have a standard template that we use for this, and it really just spells out hold harmless agreements, insurance requirements, and who's responsible to do what during construction. And then it also spells out the fact that the Bear Creek Preservation Foundation would be responsible to hire the contractor and monitor the construction. And then the city will then, do regular inspections out there to make sure that it's being built to our satisfaction. So that's what the second agreement, or that's what the next thing is that'll come to the Parks Committee at the next meeting.
Okay, I would be happy to move to approve this concept.
I think it looks great.
Motion by Alder Gerlach, seconded by Alderweire. Any further discussion? I don't know if we need to open the floor. Is there anybody here for this or?
I don't think there's anyone here for this item.
And I think it's great, so I got nothing else to say. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, that passes unanimously.
Let me know when you're ready, James. Okay, we're ready for the next item.
Item number 2, consideration with possible action on the request by the Greenway Arts Commission to install art mural panels on 10 park shelters throughout the city. Staff?
So the Green Bay Arts Commission has been working with staff for a few weeks to determine if there's a way to incorporate more artwork into the park system. So we worked very closely with the Arts Commission to develop the proposal that you see in front of you today. And I've attached that proposal to the agenda packet. So what they'd like to do is hire artists to create 10 mural panels, which can be installed on 10 different shelters throughout the entire park system. So each mural would be applied to a 4x8 panel, 4 foot by 8 foot panel. And then these panels would be easily installed and removed from our shelters with very little damage to the shelters. So they'd simply be screwed in place. And then when the artwork is removed at some point in the future, the screw holes would just have to be patched and there'd be very little damage to the siding on any shelter. So, and then each artist would be paid $1,000 for each selected mural. And we purposely in this proposal have not selected which park shelter locations would receive these murals. And the reason we did that is because we'd like to actually take a look at the mural proposals that are brought to the city and select locations based on the theme of the murals versus letting them or the artist decide where it should go. So, you know, the location would be at the discretion of the Parks Department staff. And also when the murals would be taken down would be to the Parks Department staff's discretion also. So there is no timeline commitment for how long these murals would stay in place. But, you know, obviously our ideal would be to leave them in place for a while. A timeline, I don't have a preconceived notion that I can really share with you today. But once they start to wear and if the paint starts chipping off, you know, we'll obviously remove them at that point. If they get damaged beyond repair, then we would obviously remove them. So I think each one would be removed at a different timeline. So we do have our Laura Schley with our I don't remember her title, but she's a city employee who works with all of our artwork. She is in this meeting. If you have any specific questions for her, she'd be happy to answer them. And what is your title, Laura? I apologize.
It's all good. I'm the public arts coordinator. So I work in the Community and Economic Development Department. And the Community and Economic Development Department staff were the ones who actually helped kind of establish the idea for this program. It's funded through community development block grant dollars, or at least that's what we're proposing. We still have to get approval, but we want to make sure that you guys are on board with the idea first before we finalize the funding. But we do have an allocation available for public art projects. This project was devised off of community input that we had requested through an open house, and then also gathering input from the Arts Commission. Overall, there was interest in seeing more artwork within the parks. Specifically, it was actually at Baird's Creek. But having more artwork in parks and then also finding new ways to engage the community. So this was the idea that we came up with. And as Dan mentioned, having those murals on panels makes it a lot easier that once the lifespan has been reached, we can remove them out and potentially even put up a new one down the road should you guys wish to continue. putting more artwork up. So yeah, if you have any questions, let me know. Hopefully I can answer them.
I got a bunch, but I'll let anybody else who's got some go first. Okay, let's start with who would own the art pieces? The city?
Yep, so it would be city property. The artists are, the stipend that they get is really to make that that design on the panel, to paint it.
So we could, even when we decide that it's had its day, we could possibly even auction it off or something, or?
We could. I'd have to double check with Krista on block grant requirements and things like that, how those things are handled. But with it being city property, I think we could have that option.
Yeah,
Not
and
for
hopefully
sure.
the money would go right back into the, your funds for arts.
Yeah.
So, and do you know, are these going to be, is the intention to keep them up year round or just during the nicer months?
The intention is to keep them up year round. I've been researching. So in the call that you guys have in the packet, it doesn't go into all the details of the panel, but the idea is to prepare the panels ahead of time based on best practices for an exterior mural. For a panel like this, that's 2 coats of like a metal-based primer and then an aluminum-based primer actually around the outside edge of that panel for extra security against moisture and things like that, and then another coat of primer. So really preparing those panels properly is going to increase that lifespan of the project. And then we're also requesting that artists put UV coating on the top, which I've selected a UV coating that they would be directed to use.
Well, I think that's about it for me, except for I was just going to recommend to Dan. I don't know if he can still hear me or not. Oh, wait a minute. There he goes. That in the placement of them, perhaps one thing to also keep in mind is maybe rotating them around after a while too, perhaps.
We could consider that.
Yeah, just a suggestion.
We just have to make sure that they're in block grant eligible areas.
Right. But I'm
when we are
thinking it would
looking
be
at placing them.
the 10 places we choose, it would still be those 10 places. It would just different pieces, different times, perhaps.
Like the rotating art program?
Kind of like that. I'm glad you mentioned that. Kinda. Okay. If there's nothing else, I'll take a motion.
I did have one more question, kind of,
Sure.
and maybe I missed the answer, but is it the art can, by the way, I do like the program, pretty cool. Can they only be placed in the CDGB area, or can they go to any park?
It can only, my understanding is it can only be placed in the CD eligible
Okay,
parks because that's where the funding is coming.
Okay. Well, that helps
With
narrow it down, I
this-
guess.
Yeah, with this funding, unfortunately, we are restricted to those areas. But I think if this is something that is of interest to you guys, and we could kind of see this as like a test run of sorts. If it's something that the community really starts to resonate with, I think we definitely could explore funding sources that have a little less red tape and restrictions on them to have them placed outside of those block grant areas for sure.
Thanks. Yep.
Anyone else?
Make a motion to approve.
Motion by Alderweire to approve.
Second,
Second by Aldergerlach. All in favor?
aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you very much.
Thank you guys.
Get that, James? Okay, we are good for the next item.
Item number 3. Oh, shoot.
We do have, I'm sorry, we kind of missed it, but Alder Dorf does have her hand raised in.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see that.
Sure, I was just trying to figure out how to do the hand raise, so I must have accidentally done it.
Okay.
First time ever. Let me unhand me. Oh,
You're giving me a
yeah.
high five.
I think I can figure out how to lower it. I'm gone. Thanks.
Okay. Item number 3. Consideration with possible action on the request by Alderweire to review the park department facility use policy as it relates to user groups advertising in the parks. This is back at us, staff.
Yeah, so this is the same topic we'd discussed at the last Parks Committee. So the copy of our current policy was included in the packet for your review. And I highlighted in red in that packet the section of the policy that applies to this discussion. So as you recall, this was brought forward to see if there was a desire to modify the existing park facility use policy to allow user groups to keep advertising signs up throughout the entire sports season, or maybe change our policy to do it a little more accommodating to the groups. So currently they are allowed to put up 2 signs per team per game, and the groups can put up they put the temporary signs up at the start of the day, and then they must take them down after they're done playing their games at the end of the day. So there are also, per our policy, there are also advertising allowed on scoreboards. So, and the recommendation by staff at the previous meeting was to keep the policy written as is and don't make any changes. But then the motion made at the meeting was to review the existing policy with the user groups and then determine if we should make any changes to the policy based on feedback we received from the user groups. So our recreation staff, since our last meeting, they did reach out to all of the major athletic user groups that we partner with. So this includes the soccer groups, baseball, softball, pickleball, and also the Green Bay School District. And then in addition, we reached out to a few key individuals that we worked with in the past on larger donation projects. The school district, along with the East and West Little League and Babe Ruth groups, were the only ones that really commented or provided comments or feedback on the policy. And so part of the reason for our meeting with the groups was to inform them of what our policy is, just so that they're aware of the details of the policy, because there was a thought at the last meeting that maybe the user groups just aren't aware of what our policy is. So in general, what we found out with the ones that we talked to, or the ones that responded and wanted to discuss it with us, that most of them were really not aware of the specifics of what was stated in our policy. In general, there was a misunderstanding of how many signs that they were allowed to install during game days. And some even thought that they could only install 1 sign. But like I said, prior to this, our policy is 2 signs per team per game. So one individual also asked to allow signage on the scoreboards, which is also allowed per our policy. So the school district's only concern was that the signage needs to be tasteful, and they have a written policy on signage on their end. They would hope that if we were to allow signage, all of it would be tasteful, such as no promoting alcohol or cigarettes, and concerns such like that. So all the Little League and softball individuals we did speak to would prefer that we allow them to put the signs and keep them up throughout the entire season. That was their preference, but as I said before, there was a misunderstanding of what we actually did allow also. So no one really gave an opinion as far as how much signage that they would actually want listed in the policy, or if the signage should be banners or more permanent durable signage that could be just posted on a sign somewhere. So after discussing this with the user groups and talking to our staff about it, my recommendation moving forward is still keep the policy written as it currently is. What I'm hopeful for is, now that the user groups know what the policy is, that they can actually implement it more and take advantage of the policy and sell more signage opportunities than they've done in the past. And I think now that they know what our policy is, some of their concerns might be alleviated. So that would still be my recommendation moving forward. So we can, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them for you.
Anyone? Alderweire?
Sure. Is there anyone here for this? There's one that's just a phone number. I don't know.
That phone number is my phone because we end up going into closed session. I have to do it from my phone. So.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I appreciate you reaching out, Dan, to the different groups. I know they had kind of reached out to me, and I let them know a couple of days ago this was on the agenda tonight. So I said, hey, if you really want to push this forward and discuss it, be at the meeting, and they're not here. So maybe your discussions had some fruitful ends. So I'm fine with it then. If they're not here to push it further, must have been productive discussions.
Anyone else? I'll take a motion.
So what are we moving to keep the policy the way it is, or to replace, receive and place on file? What are we doing?
I would recommend to receive and place on file the request to review the facility use policy as it relates to user groups advertising in the parks.
So
So I would say receive and place on file.
I will move to do that.
Second.
Motion by Alder Gerlach to receive and place on file, seconded by Alder Brunette. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That is received and placed on file.
We are set for the next item.
Item number 4, consideration with possible action on the City of Green Bay taking over the operation and management of the Nature Center gift shop at the Wildlife Sanctuary. Staff?
For many years, the gift shop at the Nature Center at the Wildlife Sanctuary has been operated by the Guild, which is a subcommittee of the Friends of the Wildlife Sanctuary. So those aren't actually city employees. Those are volunteers for the most part. So the Guild purchases all of the product, hires all of the staff, and manages the operation of the gift shop. And they also find volunteers to work on the hours during the week where they don't have paid employees. So in return, they keep all of the profit from the sales of that gift shop. And then throughout the years, this extra money was then donated back to the Wildlife Sanctuary to offset animal care operational expenses. So that's really what the Guild is really in existence for, is to help out the animal care portion of the Wildlife Sanctuary. That's their passion. So the Friends of the Wildlife Sanctuary, who oversees that committee, they were recently audited, and there was a recommendation by their auditor to eliminate all paid staff from their table of organization. So these gift shop employees are really the only paid staff that they have as part of their organization. Everybody else is volunteers. So they approached the city and asked if we could take on the employees and make them city employees. My recommendation to them, that is, we would only consider that if the city then takes on all aspects of the operation of the gift shop, and then the profits would go directly to the city. The reason for that was I thought that there might be, some conflicts of interest if they were running it, but running city employees. So really, if we're going to turn these employees into city employees, we really need to have some say in how that the operation of that facility is run. So their board voted on this a few weeks ago, and they were in agreement with the recommendation. So they actually made a formal approval on their board to give all aspects of the gift shop to the city to operate and manage. So this will then allow them to focus their efforts on other fundraising opportunities. So they don't have to focus it on the gift shop anymore. They can then run other events and activities and focus their time there. So the current hours of operation at that gift shop is noon to 4 every day. There's currently 3 part-time employees, or what we would call SME employees, seasonal employees. So there's a gift shop manager that currently works approximately 20 hours a week. And then there's 2 gift shop attendants who work the register. They each work 4 hours per day on the weekends only. So when I say they each work, it's each one takes a Saturday shift, one takes a Sunday shift. And so there's only 8 hours of paid employees on the weekends. And then during the week, there's 3 gift shop attendant volunteers that split the weekday hours of operation. So they don't employ anybody during the week other than the gift shop manager. So if the city does take on the management of the gift shop, we would propose to hire the same individuals that are currently employed at the gift shop, because they've worked there for many years, they know what they're doing, and we would just continue with hiring them. We have reviewed that with the HR department. So, and then the profits, that's the next question is, how much revenue does the gift shop generate? Does it pay its expenses? So the profits from the gift shop do range from year to year. We've been told that from 2015 to 2019, the net profits ranged anywhere from about $2,500 to $23,000. And that's a net profit after all of the expenses were paid. So last year, the gift shop was closed the bulk of the season because of COVID. So we didn't really include that in our summary of what they make per year. So our existing park staff does have a considerable amount of experience in souvenir sales. And we do feel that we can definitely be able to sustain those dollar limits. And more than likely, I think that we would be able to improve the annual net profits at the gift shop if we were to take it over. So I would recommend that if we move ahead with this, we take over the operation of the gift shop, that we also agree to purchase all of the inventory from the guild at cost. So that way the guild can be made whole with this change. They have a substantial investment of the inventory that's already sitting at the gift shop. And we have not completed the inventory yet because we weren't sure if you were going to approve this or not on your end. So I don't really have a grand total of what that cost would be. But whatever it is, the funding for that expense would come from a donation that was recently made to the wildlife sanctuary. So there would be no budgetary strains with the purchase of the inventory. It would all come from a donation that's already in a city account. And there is plenty of money in that donation to fund purchasing the inventory in full. So the guild, the benefit though to that is the guild would then in turn donate the money back to the sanctuary to fund future operational needs. So although we would pay them for this, their mission is all of the money they receive goes back to the sanctuary other than paid employees, which now we would be taking that over. So although we would pay them, they would in turn donate it back. So what I'm looking for from you is the approval to take over the operation and management of the gift shop. So I don't know if anyone has any questions for me.
Alder Brunette, then Alder Gerlach.
Yeah, thank you, Director Ditch. A good summary. I noticed in the agenda pack, there's nothing like no figures, like a proposal. And that would be my hesitation. Don't get me wrong, I like the idea, but I need to see something in writing with the financial details and any guarantees. So I don't know what that looks like. If you're planning on, if we give the green light to move forward, will you present something more formal for us to vote on? Are you looking for us to approve the idea or approve?
I can put together a more detailed summary if that's what you would like. I do know, based on what the guild has told me, what their net profits were per year, which I shared with you. And like I said, if we find that it's not feasible, or we find that we're not hitting those same revenue numbers that they hit, we will have the capabilities to change things. So because we'll be operating it. So we operate souvenir stands at Bay Beach Amusement Park We operate concessions at our pools. We're very well versed in that type of activity. And so we're more than confident that we can reach the same goals that they have achieved year after year. And if we don't, then we'll just change how we're doing things to meet that goal. And if at some point we find that we're actually losing money, at that point we would, close the gift shop, because our plan is not to operate a gift shop at a loss. I mean, the reason for a gift shop is to make a profit. There's a reason why all of these different groups and other areas in the community with similar type facility as ours have a gift shop, because it does make a profit. So we'll definitely be watching it closely. Do I have something in writing for you right now to review? No, I don't. But if that's what it would take for you to feel comfortable with approving this, it's something I could provide either prior to the council or bring it to a future parks.
Yeah, and Director Ditchite, it's nothing against you or your staff or anything like that. I don't question for a second that you'll probably make more in donations from sales and the 1,000 to 23,000 history. I guess, but from a public transparency standpoint, I like to see a little more detail on the cost of the inventory, what it was appraised at if we went through the formal process, just because we are still a public entity. I know that would be more of a, we're raising money through the sales of merchandise and other items for the benefit of but for the sake of good governance, I do think we should probably get something in writing that's a little more concrete. Otherwise, the public's like, okay, you approved this. Well, what did you approve? Well, we approved something based on, 5 or 10 minute verbal report from the park. So that's all. And don't take that the wrong way. It's just the way that I see things. A little more concrete in writing so that we understand the financial implications. We're bringing on staff, even though it's part-time seasonal mostly, we are still bringing on staff, which isn't something we should take lightly. So that's all.
And I do want to make one comment in relation to that. Is it's quite likely that if we do take on the operation of the gift shop, it's quite likely that we would change inventory, sell different things than they've done in the past. So, to put together a financial packet of what's to be expected, we really haven't gone through that process because we haven't selected what our souvenirs are going to be and what that is going to look like. So, we can put together kind of a summary of what's been done in the past to the best of our knowledge based on the information the guild gives us. But I don't know if it would be a true reflection of what's going to happen in the future until we actually move forward with doing this and really start exploring, well, which products are we going to keep? Which ones are we going to do differently? What from a cost analysis, which ones can we make a bigger bang for our buck? So it's definitely going to take some time to put together a better future projection of a more realistic expectation of what we would see, a year or two down the road. But what I could provide is a summary of what the guild has done in the past. And I know I've briefly verbalized that to you, but that's about the extent of what I could probably provide.
Sure, that's fair. No other questions, Mr. Chair?
Just so you said that you would hire these 3 guild members who have been working, right?
Correct, yes.
Have they accepted that, informally, have they said yes, they'd like to do that?
We have informed them all. The gift shop manager, she has been doing this for years and years. And she actually recently stated that we've been closed. The gift shop's been closed ever since COVID started. We've informed them of what the plans are moving forward, hopefully. And she stated that she would likely just retire at this point. She's kind of wants to move on with something else in her life. And so she recently told us that. But the other 2 employees have not, as far as we know, they would still continue on as employees.
And how would you replace the manager?
I think initially what we would do is we would do it internally with the staff we have. And what we might end up doing is maybe restructuring how many paid employees we have in there running the register, and instead look at hours of operation so that maybe it's open more than 12 to 4 on the weekends when we're really busy. And the bulk of the financials was to paying that supervisor for 20 hours a week. But we feel that we can do that with the full-time staff that we have.
Okay, and you said then, of course, the profits would become the property of the city. Would they still be used for the wildlife sanctuary?
I didn't hear the full question. Can you repeat that, please?
You said as far as the profits, now the profits would come to the city. Would they still be used for the wildlife sanctuary?
Yeah, so what we would do is the profits would be included in our annual budget because the cost of the employees and the revenue that we receive would just be built into the wildlife sanctuary budget.
Okay, so in other words, it would all stay within the wildlife.
Correct. And yep, for that year. Obviously, the budget starts over January 1st, but any revenues that come in, what we would do is offset the budget so that our expenses and revenues would balance. And then whatever profit we make out there, we would then spend out at the sanctuary prior to the end of the calendar year.
Okay, thank you. I see Alder Scannell grinning. We heard a dog bark, right?
Yeah, that wasn't me. I don't know what it was, but it wasn't me. Okay, I got you answered one of my questions, Alder Gerlach. So, but I do have another question, unless I missed it. The weekly employees were volunteers. So how would we staff that during the week?
Right now the volunteers are still welcome to come in and volunteer. So they would be paid positions. So, right now on the temporary basis, we would still continue with the volunteers. And then, as we look at that manager position, that's when we would decide, do we want to extend the hours or pay additional people on the weekdays? But our intent here, like I said, is not to lose money. So we would watch that very closely and put together a schedule to fit within whatever budget we have based on our sales.
Okay, and then the only comment I'd like to make is I'm fine going forward tonight. I mean, we don't get reported out how you do. I want to say trinkets. That's not the word I want. Sales at Bay Beach, and we don't get all that information. And I think we have enough information now that we can be transparent enough. The public knows what's going on. Everything that happens from this point on will be part of operations, which is all public knowledge, wherever portion it goes to, finances or whatever. So I don't really feel that we need to more detail than what we've got tonight, as far as I'm concerned, to go forward. But I will take advice and a recommendation. Alder Gerlach.
I would like to just ask Alder Brunette if some specifics about can you give us some specific things that you feel that we need to have before approving this?
Thank you for the question. The financial background, the cost of the inventory, the estimate, how many staff members will be hired, what are the dollar rate for such position. It's just that, don't get me wrong, I want to make it clear, I support the idea completely, wholeheartedly. I just can't make a financial decision without anything financial in front of me to make the decision. So
you really want a comprehensive plan.
What's that?
You really want a comprehensive plan.
Not a comprehensive plan, but something a little more than a 5-minute verbal report. We're adding staff and we're going to be purchasing inventory and to be accountable to the public, even though it's probably enterprise fund and it's purely profit driven. We really should get those details. That's just my opinion. And we might have different opinions. That's fine. I support the idea. I just want a little more depth into what it is we're actually agreeing to, other than a 5-minute report.
And
And I mean that with all due respect.
Oh,
Yeah, I don't mean that in a negative way.
right, and I'd just like to add, I meant to add that one reason I don't feel that way is because this isn't coming out of the budget. This is all staying in-house. This is all coming from donations from the wildlife sanctuary. So if it was a budgetary matter, I think it'd be a little more complex and a little more, we need more, a little bit more. I feel I'd need a little bit more, but seeing how it's all in-house, seeing as how it's all in flux, I mean, we don't really know how it's all going to shake out even. And that's common. I mean, we don't know how it shakes out for Bay Beach. I mean, that's all just operational decision-making that Dan does and staff. So that's why I feel I'm fine going forward, but I will take a recommendation from staff. I mean, from staff, from the committee.
Well, I'll offer a motion and you can comment on it and change it, but I'd make a motion to move forward to acquire the souvenir business, but ask that the Parks Committee report back to the committee, to ask the Parks Department to report back to this committee for approval on the financial details.
So we wouldn't go forward with this until we got that report, correct?
Oh, we'd say to Director Ditchite, move forward with it, but get us the final details before we approve it.
Okay.
I'm fine with another motion. That's just what I would do to be comfortable passing, but I'll withdraw that if I don't get it second. And up to you all.
Well, if there's a second, it dies. Is there a second?
I'll second that. No. You said you gotta be more specific.
I guess so.
I do want to mention one thing, that once we settle on a price for the inventory, if that price is over $10,000 per the city policy, I would have to get approval from you to go ahead and purchase it. So at least that portion of it with the inventory will have to come back as long as it's over 10,000. If it's under 10,000, I would have the authority to purchase that. Oh, I apologize. It used to be 10,000. Now it bumped up to 25,000.
Inflation.
So.
Second, going once, going twice. Okay, motion fails for lack of a second. I'll take another motion. I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion to approve. Is there a second for that? Motion by the chair, Alder Scannell, seconded by Alderweire. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I appreciate Alder Burnett where you were going with that. I think there was enough given by the director, especially since all of the inventory is covered by a donation. I think that part we're covered with, and hearing the history of the profit, I think we're fine with moving ahead. But I appreciate what you're pointing out, and can't disagree with it. But I think for this one, I'm fine.
Yeah, thank you. Director Ditchite, if the motion passes, will you be reporting back as part of your director's report at our next meeting?
Sure, I can do that.
So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
No.
Opposed? Okay. Do we need to do the board then, or can we, is it 3-1?
Just document.
We're good?
Yeah.
Okay, 3-1. That passes 3-1.
Yes, that's correct, James.
With Alder Burnett as a negative. I don't know if you need that.
Yes, we documented that. We're
Okay.
set for the next item.
Item number 5, consideration with possible action on the request by Wisconsin Public Service to grant a 12-foot wide utility easement in the Beaver Dam Creek Greenway just southeast of the intersection of West Point Road and Peckerland Drive. Staff?
So I attached a graphic to the agenda packet. The graphic is actually part of the easement. That's the easement document. So if you just go about 2 to 3 pages into that document, you'll see the graphic. So there's currently an overhead power line in this location that services approximately 20 houses. And WPS is having problems with this line going down repeatedly from falling trees and branches on that line. And because it's in a greenway and a very difficult area to access, those power outages are out much longer than what would be typical for servicing power lines. So what they'd like to do is bury that line. They'd like to install it underground and then remove the overhead electric. So if approved, the line would be bored instead of trenched, which would help protect the trees in the greenway. As a staff, we have no concerns with this request, and we would recommend approval.
Alderweire.
Yeah, thank you, Director Ditchett. I see no problem with it. It seems necessary for those who aren't familiar with the area. It is kind of set back from the street level. A lot of neighborhood. It's basically in the backyard of a lot of residences. So is that Director Ditchett? Yeah, it's in my district. So I guess my only question for you is, as far as easements go, there was a situation that came up a little bit in my district with a utility other than WPS. How has WPS been generally in regards to notifying residents and any disruption?
I really haven't heard many concerns with from the residents on notification from WPS. No complaints have come to me throughout the years in that regard. But I don't know if those requests or those concerns would come to me anyway.
Right. No, this is for the access to the city's greenway, the city's property. It doesn't, we're not approving any residential.
Correct.
It's just the city's property. Okay, I'm in favor. Thank you.
Anyone else? You always hear about easements. Are there any hardments?
Sometimes they can be difficult, but
I'll take a motion.
Move to approve. Second. Which is it?
Motion by, I'm gonna give this one to Alder Burnett.
Thank you.
And,
My district,
yep,
so.
yep, and seconded by Alderweire. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, that passes unanimously.
okay, we're ready for the next item.
Item number 6. Consideration with possible action on the purchase of the Woods Golf Course Greenway. And I'm assuming we're going to go into closed session.
Yeah, so I would recommend we go into closed session right away to discuss the continuing negotiations of the purchase of this property.
I move we go into closed session.
Motion to go into closed session by Alder Gerlach,
Second.
seconded by Alderweire.
Aye.
All in favor? Okay, Alder Gerlach, since you made the motion, you get to read the language.
Okay. The committee may convene in closed session pursuant to sections 19.85 LE Wisconsin statutes for purpose of deliberating or negotiating the sale of public properties, investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business as necessary for competitive or bargaining reasons. The committee will thereafter reconvene in open session pursuant to section 19.852 Wisconsin statutes to take action on items discussed in closed session if appropriate and to consider the remainder of the agenda.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, we're headed to closed session.
Okay, I'm going to pause the recording right now, and I will put a few people in the waiting room.
Pretty soon the automation is going to take over and we're not going to even have to vote anymore.
Everyone is back in the meeting and we are recording.
Motion to return to open session.
Motion to return in open session by Alderweire.
Second.
Second by Alder Burnett. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are now in open session. I'll take a motion.
Motion to proceed motion for staff to proceed as directed in closed session.
Yep.
Second.
Motion by Alderweire, seconded by Alder Brunette. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that passes unanimously.
One more second, please.
Sure, certainly. Even give you 2 seconds.
Nice weather for the first on Broadway night,
Yeah,
the farmer's market.
yeah, we don't get to get there though.
Yeah, unless we speed it up here. Come on. Everybody gets 1 second to talk.
Okay, we're good.
Maybe we should get a tent. We get our own
Yeah.
spot out there and we'll meet there.
Parks and INS tent at Broadway.
Yeah.
People can walk by and heckle us.
Yeah, yeah. We're on to informational. Number 1, staff update on the current staffing levels for the pools and summer playground program and how the staffing shortage will affect the opening of the pools and playground program. Staff?
So what I will do is I'll have James give a description or a summary for you on the summer playground program. And then after that, we'll open it up to our recreation supervisor, Ann, who can give you details about the pools. So James will be here in just a second.
All right, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
All right, got something to work tonight. Well, good evening, committee. The update, so we have, as you all know, we've had multiple talks on staffing shortages over the last couple of months. And once again, we are going into our summer program opening here with playgrounds. So I don't know if you recall, but in a normal year, we typically have 32 playground sites. And we have about 67 staff members that work, 32 hours a week. We have 3 managers and we have approximately 10 to 15 subs. Last year in 2020, we reduced the number of playground sites because of staffing down to 16. And we had 38 staff, 3 managers and 11 subs. And we got through the summer, effectively maintaining that staffing level throughout the entire summer. And then this year we're looking at essentially the same scenario. Sometimes we go up a couple staff, but then the next day we go down some staff. So we are once again proposing more than likely opening day, 16 sites. The park locations, I believe, are listed in a packet, in the agenda packet. A couple things to point out. We did, we had 2 parks that we changed from 2020 to 21. Those are based on past participant numbers, summer lunch numbers, location, also, somewhat shelter size and just feedback from staff throughout last year on things that worked and didn't work. So we did propose adding this year Colburn and Red Smith, and then we took away Eisenhower and Perkins. So just a couple things to note on there with the summer sites. But other than that, everything else is, at 16 sites this year. Again, we're continuing to hire. So we keep doing interviews and TikTok videos and everything we can do to try to get staff to, with our sites here. But so we will add sites if we do, hire more staff. So hopefully, if we hire more staff, then we'll go right down our priority list. We have all 32 parks pretty much outlined on a priority, and then we'll just keep adding parks as we hopefully hire more staff.
And pools?
Any questions on playgrounds, I guess, or do you want me to wait until the end? Or
I guess I would take questions on playgrounds first before we go into pools.
Alderweire.
Excuse my ignorance, what happens at these 16 parks that doesn't happen at the other parks that makes them the chosen ones? What is the program?
So what makes these 16 parks our chosen parks for?
Not why did you choose them? What happens at them?
Oh, the playground program?
Yeah.
Oh, look, well, Alder Gerlach, not only will I give you a ride on the Zip and Pippin, we can go on a tour this summer of the playground sites and we can see the activities, special events. We have our staff that do a really good job at, from 11 to 5 every single day, Monday through Friday. We have organized events, we have special events, we have themed activities, talent shows, arts and crafts, sports games, sports game days. We have everything from spelling bees to you name it. It's just a really fun summer playground program for our kids to be supervised during those times. And also we have the school food district serves lunch every day at these sites and provides free lunch for all the kids. So it's just a really great summer program. I believe we're in our, I think we're nearing 100 years of this program, so it's just a really good tradition in our community. We do a kiddie carnival at the end of the year, which we are running this year. And we are doing some other, citywide events as well. So where we bring a lot of the parks together and do different activities at certain parks like track and field day and, those kind of things. So definitely, I'm more than willing to, like I said, bring it around. You can see it firsthand this summer.
You all heard him say that. I'm taking him up on it. Okay, thank you. That's all I needed to know. I appreciate that.
Anyone else? On to pools.
Good evening. Hello. Yes, I am here to provide the update on where we stand with pools. So I'm going to talk mainly lifeguards. I am still hiring facility attendants. That's the crew that handles our concession stand, admissions area. They work as slide attendants. I'm still hiring attendants, but we are doing pretty good there. So I don't see that position being too much of a concern as long as the pace of applications continue where it's at. But as far as lifeguards are concerned, that's a different story. So to operate our 3 facilities at the base minimal level, just kind of scraping by, we need about 50 lifeguards to just operate our 3 pools. What I currently have full-time, folks committed to working a regular schedule, I have 14 lifeguards. I do have I have about a dozen people on a sub list as well. I have 17 applicants who are going through the interview and swim test screening process. That's been really successful thus far. So I'm confident that the majority of those 17 applicants will go through lifeguard training. That course is going to take place June 15th through the 17th. So we need them done with school so they have some time during the day to do that course. So that will take place after opening weekend, which is June 12th. So with those that I already have on staff and those that I am hopeful will get through lifeguard training, we will still need about 18 lifeguards to just get to that bare minimum level to get those 3 pools open. So where we stand as of today is we have enough staff to operate Rush Aquatic Center, which needs 10 lifeguards daily to work. So that gives us enough people where the same 10 don't have to work every day. So that just gives us a good crew of people to operate Rush Aquatic Center starting June 12th. Joanne's is our largest staff. We need 13 to just operate on a daily basis. And then Coburn, we need, just depending on what sections we open and whether or not we have inflatables, a good average number is 8. We are going to make decisions on what opens 100% on what we have for staff. As I continue to train and certify new lifeguards, we will continue to make decisions on what we can open, and we will certainly keep the park committee updated on those decisions and the progress that we make. I do also want to note that swim lessons we should be able to operate swim lessons as planned. We can get the staff that we need to do swim lessons. We will also have our swim teams starting on June 14th, and we can have those rentals begin as planned as well. So that is the update on pools. We're working on it.
Well, it's not your fault, but I was hoping you'd make a bigger splash. Appreciate what you're doing.
Thanks.
So in summary with the pools, our game plan right now is to open the Resch Aquatic Center on the date of the opening. And then depending on how many staff we have from there, we'll make decisions on whether or not we open Colburn or Joanne's or a combination of the two. We can't tell you that at this point because we just don't know how many staff we're going to have. And we're going to open as much as we can with the staffing we have. So we wanted to share that with you right now because the next Parks Committee isn't until June 23rd, which is after the pools open.
Any questions or comments, anyone?
I saw that there were, sorry, Mr. Chairman, there were still some outreach efforts you were trying to try and get some last minute kids coming home from college or whatever.
I actually have two of my pool directors at a job fair as we speak right now. So the CVB put on a seasonal hospitality job fair for high school and college students looking for jobs. So we are promoting pool jobs and playground, basically anything we still have open. So that's happening. I've got my staff doing a lot, working on some videos, and we're going to hit our social media hard, especially as schools wrap up and kids are now actually thinking summer and summer jobs.
Appreciate your efforts. It's tough. I'm sure all the municipalities are dealing with this. We'll have to be creative for next year to draw them here instead of there. Sorry, I moved the camera away. The ice cream truck finally did come by. So I heard my daughter running down the steps like a crazy person. So
Where's my dilly bar?
Thanks, Ann. I appreciate it, James and Ann. I know.
Did we raise the wage?
What we're doing is we're hiring them at the maximum level we can instead of actually changing the pay scale of our seasonal position. So we're going to reevaluate the seasonal position pay scale for this entire city at budget time. But we are hiring them at the highest step that we can.
Thank you.
Good luck. Hopefully we can at least keep 2 of the 3 pools open. I don't know. Colburn and Fisk. I mean, that's just.
All right, Alder Burnett.
Yeah, and I know this is probably a staff level decision, Director Ditchite, but if we open 2 pools, my opinion, the two that makes the most sense would be Colburn and Joanne's. Joanne's because you still have an aquatic center, Colburn because it offers an opportunity unique than the other 2 aquatic centers. So I'm sure you've already thought of that. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, and that is one of the scenarios we are looking at, but it strictly is dependent on the number of lifeguards we have at that date.
Right.
So
For myself, I like Resch and Joanne's because of the aquatics and because the inner city, easier for kids to get to.
Colburn helps people swim so we can have an abundance of lifeguards in future years.
Yeah. Well, maybe we can just open Colburn for swimming lessons.
There you go. Well, I'm sure the staff will do their best. And like Alderweire said, it is a tough situation. I know you're all trying very hard. And what you mentioned, sending your staff to job fairs and this or that, the marketing, everything you've done has been superb. It's just the numbers just aren't there. That's not your fault.
Now, if some of the surrounding communities' pools happen to not be functioning, there might be some
something happens in
available
those
lifeguards.
other surrounding pools. Is just a darn shame. I'll see you later, Alderweire.
All right.
Okay. We all done with this one? Everyone? Okay.
Yeah.
Move on to the next one.
No more comment. I would just recommend that we receive and place on file the staff.
Well,
Oh, right.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Motion by Alder Burnett to receive and place on file, seconded by Alderweire. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that's receive it and place it on file. Are we ready for informational 2?
In just a second.
Yep.
We are set for the next item.
Staff update on fat tire biking at Nisra Park. That?
Yes. So a couple updates, minor updates here, and then I actually had the opportunity on one of these nice days to walk the entire trail system over at Nisra and evaluate some of the concerns that maybe a few of the residents may have brought up over the past 4 to 5 months. It was very apparent that we did not have any erosion or any kind of significant tread wear on the trails or anything that I seen that I was even remotely concerned about, I guess, from my standpoint with our experience. I didn't see anything that would alarm to think like, oh, this, these bikes are causing some, severe damage here or anything. Actually determined that one of the trail sections that was closed on the backside, kind of down by the lower wetland, was at the point where it could be opened again. Just due to, we've had pretty dry, we had a few rains here, but it's been pretty dry overall. So one of those trails was open currently. And then, a few just kind of side comments is we, due to some of the public outreach and some of the meetings we had, one of the focus group members actually reached out and initiated a mustard seed pull with some other members over at Nisra, which really helps us out and keeps that invasive species from, spreading like, it just keeps spreading. So, they came out and did that, and we helped them, out with that mustard pull. And then I guess my last comment would be, as always, the Parks Department is, open to having any more public input meetings or focus group meetings, per the direction of, Alder Burnett or the committee. So you guys just let me know if that's something that you're interested in. We'd be more than happy to host those. And that's my report.
Or anyone else? Yep, Alder Burnett.
Yeah, thank you for that update. James, the trial was to go until the 15th of May, which was about 10 days ago. So I just want to follow up with you, and I know we've been exchanging emails, and for the sake of the committee, I do think another informational session, just mainly for a point of communication. That was one of the main gripes of the group that was opposing the fat tire bike expansion. So as long as the committee is comfortable with that, I'd like to work with the Parks Department to schedule another neighborhood meeting so people can be informed. And James, you do a great job with that. So I have no concerns.
Yeah, thank you.
Take a motion to receive and place on file.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Alder Burnett. Oh, yes.
I was just going to say, Chairman, I don't think we need to have this as a standing agenda item anymore. Thanks for keeping on the agenda, but we can, bring this back as needed.
Oh, okay. Staff got that?
We do.
Okay. Too bad, because I was going to charge you a nickel every time. Motion by Alder Gerlach to receive and place on file, second by Alder Burnett. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, that's received and placed on file.
No, can't see you.
We are ready for the next item.
Okay, last but not least, the next parks, oh no, skipping one. Director's report on updates and recent activities of the Parks, Recreation, and Forestry Department. Wonderfully done as always. Is there anything you care to point out in particular or anything, Dan?
Just have a couple items that I want to touch on that was not in the report. So one is at Seymour Park. We did get the security cameras installed out there. I know we discussed that at a previous Parks Committee meeting about, 9 months ago or so. Secondly, Colburn Pool, we're in the process of getting cameras. We've met with the individuals. I know we've done some of the legwork. Those cameras should be installed very soon. Not quite installed yet, but we will have security cameras at Colburn Pool in the next few weeks. And then the last thing I just want to mention is starting next week, the city of Green Bay is going to participate in the Trex Community Plastic Film Recycling Challenge. And so what that is we're going to put some recycling bins at City Hall, and we're going to put one at the Wildlife Sanctuary. And they're very similar to the bins you see at grocery stores like Festival Foods, where people can bring their grocery bags and then various plastic wrapping materials such as bread bags or bubble wrap or Ziploc bags. Those type of things would all be acceptable. We'll collect all of that as a central location here. And if we collect over 500 pounds of plastic wrapping and bags within a 6-month period, the Trex company will donate a bench to the city using the Trex material to construct that bench. So we're excited about that. That kicks off next week. I'm sure that we'll be making a press statement to that effect very soon. So that's all that I have to add to the report.
Motion to receive and place on file.
Motion by Alder Burnett to receive and place on file.
Second.
Seconded by Alder Weary. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, yeah. Thanks for making that shout out, Dan. Really excited about it too, the plastic. Let's collect that plastic. Our next meeting will be June 23rd, 2021. Make sure everybody's here. Mark your calendars. It's 2021, not 2022. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion to adjourn by Alder Weary, seconded by Alder Burnett. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? We're adjourned. And when are we going to get back together for?
7 minutes.
7 o'clock, which
Oh,
is just
7
about 7 minutes. 7 and 7. So top of the hour.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, staff.
Thank you.
Thanks, staff. Good job, everyone.